Slow Night, Ancient Tales, The Servant's Son, author Do-hyang. Part 1. One cold and windy winter night, the sound of someone reading aloud echoed from the servants' quarters of Principal Park's house. Gradually, the voice grew fainter, like a dying candle. Suddenly, a mother's voice, heavy with sleep as she nursed a baby, snapped sharply. "Keep reading." At her stern urging, the boy's voice grew loud again. The boy's name was Jin-tae. He was 12 years old, in the 4th grade, and the son of the servant family living in Principal Park's gate quarters. His buzzing voice faded in less than 2 minutes. Soon the neighborhood clock struck 11, and absolute silence fell over the house. Part 2. When morning came, heavy snow had blanketed the yard, the roofs, and the tree branches. It had not stopped yet. Fine, powdery snow was still falling softly. Jin-tae stepped outside, holding a worn-out broom he had fetched from behind the door. At first, he felt as light and refreshed as if he were rolling on a freshly washed white blanket. He thought he could easily sweep away all the snow with his worn broom and small arms. But after filling and dumping the dirt basket 2 or 3 times, his arms felt like they were falling off, and his back ached terribly. Still, he couldn't stop. Sweeping the yard every morning was his duty. His mother went inside the main house to cook, and his father left to pull his rickshaw for the day. Jin-tae emptied a couple of baskets into the ditch, then struggled back carrying 3 more. His fingertips felt raw and peeling from the freezing snow, and his toes ached as if they were being chopped off. He forced his feet to move. It felt like the heavy basket of snow was dragging him forward. Halfway down the path, his arms lost all their strength, and his legs completely gave out. He dropped the basket with a heavy thud. "Look at what you've done!" An angry voice boomed right above him. Startled, Jin-tae looked up. It was Principal Park, returning from an early morning outing. The principal's shoe was covered in the spilled snow, and he glared down with an angry red face. Jin-tae's face burned hot with shame. He stood frozen, unable to speak, not knowing how to apologize. Seeing dark dirt mixed with snow on the principal's pristine white socks, Jin-tae thought brushing it off might earn him some forgiveness. He bowed and reached out with both hands to wipe the shoe, but the principal stomped his foot. "Leave it, you're making it dirtier," he scoffed, and marched inside. Jin-tae was devastated. His hands were stained black with ink from his writing practice the night before. He had only wanted to help, but he was scolded for making things worse. He didn't know what to do. His face was flushed with humiliation, and his hands felt like they were on fire. Unable to enter the main house, he headed back toward his room. Just then, the lady of the house shouted from the wooden porch, "Does that boy have no eyes? Why doesn't he watch where he's going?" Hearing this, Jin-tae shrank back, wishing he could disappear into a mouse hole. Following right behind was his mother, raising her fist as if to strike him. "You wretched boy, where did you leave your eyes?" she yelled. Terrified, Jin-tae darted into his room. Sure enough, his mother marched over, still adjusting her clothes from nursing the baby. "Are you blind? What did you do to the master's new socks? Why are you so clumsy?" Thankfully, she didn't say much more and returned to the main kitchen. Aside from being scared stiff, Jin-tae felt a sudden surge of unfairness. No matter how he thought about it, it wasn't his fault. He was just carrying the snow, and the principal had bumped into him while not paying attention. With nowhere to turn, Jin-tae collapsed onto the floor. He buried his face in his arms and cried helplessly. He felt his tears hitting the floor and smelled the damp earth beneath the reed mat. The thought of his parents' anger, especially his father's heavy, stone-like hands, made him shudder. He didn't have the words to explain his sorrow. He just felt wronged and bitter, with nowhere to vent his frustration. As he lay sobbing, the door suddenly flew open. He flinched but didn't look back, assuming it was his mother coming to comfort him. He waited for her gentle voice, hoping she would tell him to get up. Instead, a gruff voice barked, "Hey!" It was his father. Instantly, Jin-tae knew he was in trouble. His tears stopped, and a chill ran down his spine. "Hey, get up, you!" his father yelled, his angry face leaning in. Jin-tae couldn't move. If he showed his tear-stained face, his father would ask why he was crying. If he answered, he would surely be punished. His heart pounded with anxiety. Heavy footsteps entered the room. A hand like an iron hook grabbed the collar of his jacket and lifted him into the air like a piece of meat on a butcher's hook. "Why are you crying?" His father's voice softened slightly, a natural instinct to comfort his weeping son showing through. "Why are you crying?" Jinte didn't answer. "Tell me, why are you crying?" His chest felt tight. He couldn't speak. "Did your mom hit you?" Jinte shook his head, sobbing softly. "Then why? Did you get scolded?" No, Jinte stopped shaking his head. "Then why? Speak." His father lost his patience. "You brat, say something. Are you mute?" After failing to get an answer, his father muttered, "What's going on?" and stepped outside. He was going to ask Jinte's mother. "What happened to the basket? The snow basket?" the father asked loudly, pacing outside. From the kitchen, the mother replied while washing dishes. "Jinte took it out earlier to sweep the yard. Ask him." Annoyed, the father pressed, "But he's in there crying. Did you say something to him?" Hearing this, the lady of the house spoke up from the porch, feeling a bit guilty. Earlier, while clearing snow, he dumped it on the master's foot. His mother just scolded him a bit for it. The father's eyes twitched. His neck stretched forward, and his shoulders hunched like a tiger ready to pounce. Without a word, he marched back to the servants' quarters. He ripped the door open. To him, dropping snow on the master's foot was bad, but losing the snow basket was an unforgivable waste that made him want to kill the boy. "You brat." He grabbed his son. "Come out here." Jinte curled his arms and legs against his chest, trembling as he looked up at his father. "You wretched boy, who are you mourning for? Crying so early in the morning?" Then a fist as hard as a rock slammed into Jinte's back. "Oh, father! Please, father!" Jinte pleaded desperately, but he couldn't bring himself to say he was sorry, because he didn't feel he had done anything wrong. "What do you mean, father, you wretched boy?" His father beat him mercilessly. Hearing the commotion, the mother ran out. "Stop it! Stop it! That's enough!" she cried, trying to pull him away. "Let go of me! Move!" He shoved her away with his elbow. "You blind fool! You dumped snow on the master's socks, and then what? You left the basket outside and lost it? You good for nothing." Every time the father's heavy hand struck his son's back, legs, and thighs, the young boy's skin bruised and bled. With every strike, the father's voice grew louder, trembling with a mix of sorrow and frustration. As he beat his son, he wasn't really looking at the boy begging at his feet. Instead, he was seeing the wealthy master sitting warmly in the main house. He wasn't just hitting his son, he was taking out his anger, resentment, and helplessness on his own master. "Please, stop it." The mother finally threw herself over her son, shielding him with her own body. Part 3. It was past 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Jinte returned from school. As he walked through the front gate, he saw a brand new snow basket. Seeing the red and yellow woven branches made his bruised body ache all over again. He sat on the porch. His mother called him inside to eat. The fire in the room had burned down to ashes, leaving only an iron and a poker stuck in the cold embers. His mother, wrapped in patched clothes, was nursing his baby sibling. The baby sucked on one side while playing with the other. Watching his little sibling, Jinte felt a quiet wave of affection. He poked the baby's soft cheek and clicked his tongue to make the baby smile. The baby grinned, letting go of the mother, and looked up at Jinte. His mother quietly watched the baby's fingers, then handed the child over. "Here, carry the baby on your back." "But I haven't even eaten yet." Jinte quickly scarfed down his food and tied the baby to his back. However, no food had been prepared for their own family. His mother was going inside to cook, but not for them. Pacing the room with the baby, Jinte guessed they were out of rice. He hoped his father would hurry home. He peeked through a hole in the paper door, waiting for his father to bring money from pulling the rickshaw. Just to be sure, he checked the rice jar. Inside the dark, empty jar was only a rice scoop covered in bran. Disappointed, Jinte closed the lid and continued pacing. The baby squirmed on his back, rubbing its little feet together. "We can't even have dinner today," he thought, opening the rattling door and stepping out onto the narrow wooden porch. He checked under the stove where the pot sat. Only a few half-burnt pieces of wood lay in the ashes. He looked at the firewood corner. Not even a twig was left. The cold wind swept through their bare, impoverished home. The darkening evening sky only deepened Jinte's sadness, bringing tears to his eyes as he realized they would have to skip dinner. Soon his mother rushed out, likely having just started the fire in the main kitchen. Jin-tae noticed her worn straw shoes as she absent-mindedly kicked a stray ember into the fire. She noticed the baby on his back. "Oh, it's so cold. Put something on the baby's head. Where is the winter cap? Its little hands are freezing." She went into the room and brought out an old winter cap Jin-tae had worn as a baby 10 years ago. The fur was completely worn away, and the silk was frayed. She put it on the baby and stood looking out the gate for several minutes. Jin-tae knew why she was standing there. She was waiting for his father. Suddenly, she startled as if someone had tapped her on the shoulder and turned to go back inside. "Aren't we having dinner?" Jin-tae asked, following her. Already stressed and anxious, his mother snapped, "We need rice and firewood to make dinner." The sudden yell scared the baby on Jin-tae's back, who began to cry loudly. Jin-tae awkwardly bounced the baby to soothe it, standing in silence. His mother went back into the main house. Jin-tae followed and sat quietly in front of the kitchen fire. Part 4. Night fell, and the electric lights turned on, but their family still had no dinner. Jin-tae's father had not yet returned. As Jin-tae's mother was finishing up in the main house, the lady called out, "Mother of Jin-tae." "Yes," she answered, pausing at the door. "Have you made dinner yet?" She hesitated, then offered an embarrassed smile. "We have something to eat." "Is your husband back?" "Not yet." "Then you haven't cooked dinner." The mother stayed silent. The lady understood immediately. "How can you manage? The little ones will freeze," the lady said softly. She gathered the leftover rice from various bowls onto one plate. "Here, take this. Tell the boy to come in. You haven't lit a fire either, right? Adults can endure the cold, but the children, tell the boy to come in here." Relieved, the mother stepped out and called for him. "Jin-tae! Jin-tae!" "What is it?" Jin-tae asked, stepping inside from the yard. "Let's go in." "Where?" "Into the main house. The lady told you to come in and eat." Jin-tae's face instantly turned bright. Why? We can just cook and eat when father gets home. Who knows when he'll be back? He'll be back eventually. Go inside. She called for you. "No," Jin-tae said, turning his back. He was still embarrassed about dirtying the master's shoes that morning and too ashamed to face the lady. Furthermore, he was resentful that he had been beaten for something that wasn't his fault. On top of that, the principal's daughter, who was in the same grade as him, lived in the main house. He was too mortified to let her see him like this. "Don't make her wait. Let's go," his mother urged. "No, I don't want to go beg for food," Jin-tae shouted stubbornly. "You wretched boy, they are waiting for you inside." "Let them wait. I'm not going." Deep down, his mother knew he wasn't wrong, and she felt a pang of sympathy for his bruised pride. But they were starving, and she needed to eat so she could nurse the baby. She had to break her son's stubbornness. "Are you really not going in?" she threatened, pretending to look for a stick. As she did, she felt a wave of crushing sorrow at the pitiful reality of their lives. "I won't go," Jin-tae refused, his voice trembling with tears. "Fine. Starve then. Give me the baby." Taking the baby, his mother went inside to eat the leftover food. Jin-tae went into their dark, freezing room and lay down. He felt incredibly sad, angry, and lonely. He just wished his father would come home soon. Less than 10 minutes later, his mother came back. She poked her head through the door. "The lady says you must come in. Hurry up." Jin-tae turned away, pulling the blanket tighter. "No, I won't. The master is worried about you." I said no. His mother went back. 5 minutes later, she returned, this time opening the door entirely. "Here," she said, holding something out. Jin-tae had been curled up under the blanket to block out the freezing wind seeping through the cracks. Hearing her voice, he asked, "What is it?" "It's rice. Eat it and go to sleep. Don't be so stubborn in this freezing weather." A wave of overwhelming shame washed over Jin-tae. "I told you I don't want it. I'm not eating." His mother stepped into the room. She shook him gently but firmly, pleading with him. "Get up. Come on, get up." Jin-tae pressed himself closer to the wall, pulling the blanket over his head. "No, I'm not hungry. Fine, suit yourself. If you're not hungry, do you think I am?" she muttered, turning to leave. Just then, the door opened, and a shivering voice said, "It's freezing." It was Jin-tae's father. The parents bumped into each other in the dark. "Are you blind? Damn it," the father cursed. It's too dark to see, the mother replied apologetically. Bumping into him had broken her courage to scold her husband for coming home empty-handed, and having empty pockets had robbed the father of his loud bravado. "How did it go?" she asked. "How do you think? It's a disaster. No customers at all. What about dinner?" "Honey, please stop talking nonsense. What were we supposed to cook with?" The father silently entered the room. Jin-tae sat up. Rather than feeling happy to see him, Jin-tae felt his last shred of hope completely vanish. "Then what are we going to do?" The father sighed, not even bothering to turn on the light. "Don't you have a single penny?" "If I had money, I would have drank macchioli." The word macchioli struck a nerve. "Macchioli? Your children are starving and shivering in a freezing room, and you talk about macchioli? If you love macchioli so much, go live with a tavern lady or dive headfirst into a wine vat. Macchioli, macchioli, one of these days, that macchioli is going to be the end of you." "Oh, stop it. You're nagging like a fox again." "Ugh, I hate coming home to see your face," he grumbled, smacking his lips. Jin-tae quietly watched them argue as he turned on the light. "Well, we have to eat something," the father said, clearly starving, but he had no salute, ions. "Here, eat this," the mother said, handing him the bowl of rice mixed with soup she had brought for Jin-tae. "What is this?" he asked, taking a few bites before looking at Jin-tae. "Did you eat?" Jin-tae couldn't bring himself to speak, but before he could, his mother answered sharply. "No, he didn't," glaring at Jin-tae with a mix of blame and resentment. "Why not?" the father asked, holding his spoon. "Who knows? He just said he didn't want to." "You must be hungry then," the father said, pushing the bowl toward him. "Want some?" "No," Jin-tae replied, moving further away. "Why not?" "I have no appetite." Part 5. About 30 minutes later, his mother called quietly from outside. "Jin-tae! Jin-tae!" "Yes!" Jin-tae stepped outside. His mother was standing by the gate, clutching something small in her hand. She unwrapped a piece of cloth. "Take this," she whispered. "Go to the pawn shop and ask for 70 or 80 john. Then go to the rice shop and buy 5 cups of rice, and buy 10 yangs worth of firewood." Jin-tae immediately recognized it. It was her silver hairpin. The only valuable things in their family were the hairpin she had brought when she got married and a thick silver ring. He took it and headed toward the pawn shop. The closest one was next to the general store, and just past the barber shop was another. But he couldn't go to the first one. The owner's son went to his school. If he got caught pawning his mother's hairpin, he would be completely humiliated. So he decided to walk further down to the second pawn shop. As he trudged along, huddled against the cold with his arms crossed, he felt as if people were pointing at him, mocking his poverty. He even feared the pawnshop owner would look at him with disgust. He closed his eyes and braced himself to go in, but a sign on the door read, "In mourning." The shop was closed. Someone had died. For a few moments, the tension in his chest eased, but this meant he had no choice. He had to go to his friend's pawn shop. Every step felt incredibly heavy. His chest tightened, and his head spun with a feverish heat. He peeked inside. Thankfully, he didn't see his friend. Only an adult clerk was sitting there. Jin-tae slid the silver hairpin through the small pigeonhole opening in the wire mesh window. The clerk, who had been reading a newspaper, glared at him. "What is this?" he barked. "Can you take this?" Jin-tae's voice was thin and trembling. The clerk took it without a word and weighed it on a scale. Jin-tae worried nervously. "What if he rejects it? What if he says it's fake?" "How much do you need?" the clerk asked. Relieved, Jin-tae hesitated. Afraid that asking for a specific amount would lead the clerk to give him less, he asked instead, "How much is it worth?" After a moment, the clerk said, 1 won. That was more than his mother had asked for. Breathing a sigh of relief, Jin-tae said, "Please give me 70 john." "What is your name?" Jin-tae hated giving his name for a pawn ticket, but he had no choice. While the clerk was writing the ticket, Jin-tae paced nervously, looking around and muttering to himself to pretend he wasn't there to pawn something. Just then, a child's voice called out from behind him. "Jin-tae?" Startled, Jin-tae turned around. It was the owner's son, stepping out to greet him happily. "What brings you here?" Jin-tae wanted to run away. He wanted to leave the money and just disappear. "Did you do tomorrow's math homework?" the friend asked warmly. Jin-tae's face burned scarlet. He shook his head. "No." "Oh no, you're in trouble. I can't do it at all. Jinte didn't hear a word his friend was saying. Math homework was the least of his worries. Tomorrow at school, his classmates would surely mock him. He could already see the face of the class bully, waiting to tease and torment him. Jinte grabbed the pawn ticket and the money and hurried out. Next was the rice shop. Buying a full sack of rice was something to be proud of, but buying just 5 small cups was shameful. Poverty wasn't a crime, but to Jinte it felt like a terrible sin. At the shop, the owner barked, "Why didn't you bring a pouch?" After serving everyone else, the owner begrudgingly poured 5 cups of rice into a small paper bag, acting as if giving away the paper bag itself was a loss. Jinte paid and left. His hands were freezing so badly they felt like they were falling off. He alternated hands, holding the rice bag with one while warming his ear with the other. Next was the firewood shop. He bought 20 john worth of wood, tied it with a straw rope, and slung it over his shoulder while tucking the rice bag under his arm. Walking down the road with his head bowed, his shoulders ached, and his hands, feet, and ears were numb with cold. He paused to rest. Looking ahead, he saw one of his school teachers walking toward the alley leading to his house. Jinte panicked. He had to get into the alley before the teacher saw him. He broke into a run. Since the teacher wasn't carrying anything heavy, he walked fast. Jinte was carrying a heavy load and moved slowly. They were about to cross paths. Without looking ahead, Jinte dashed into the alley and crashed violently into someone coming out. Arr! The paper bag tore open, scattering the precious rice across the frozen ground. Jinte tumbled backward, the firewood still strapped to his back. "You clumsy fool, are you blind?" The voice belonged to his father. Jinte quickly looked back toward the street. The teacher had walked by without noticing. "You wretched brat, what are we going to do with all this spilled rice?" his father scolded, dropping to his knees in the dark to frantically sweep the scattered grains into his pants. Jinte stood there in a daze until his father dragged him into the house. Once inside, his mother immediately asked how much he received, how much he spent, and how much was left. Jinte handed her the pawn ticket and told her everything that had happened. But his mother showed no sympathy. The thought of losing the rice bought with the money from her only precious possession was too painful and infuriating to bear. "You wretched boy, I told you to just eat your dinner and sleep, but no." She lunged at him, raising her fists. "Let's see how you like this." She rained blows upon him. Jinte didn't make a single excuse. Having been beaten twice in one day, a deep resentment and desire to curse the world swelled inside him, though he didn't know exactly who or what to blame. After the beating, he cried alone in the corner of the cold room. No one comforted him. No one stroked his back. He cried himself to sleep in that corner. That night, he dreamed a dream full of deep unfairness.